You can add one more chess piece to the board. How does it move, and what is it called? The Chancellor moves exactly as the Queen, but cannot take or be taken. Serves only as protection for the King. Blocking check or mate. Starts the game off board behind the King, and can only enter play on the King's square once the King has moved off it. Once per game the Chancellor can declare emergency powers, because he loves democracy. The Senate will decide your fate. Peasant. Exactly like pawn, but diagonal moves. And it must move forward to take out pieces. When I worked night shift we had a game with a ton of extra pieces on a 10x10 board. Some pieces inspired by a similar thread. Arsehole pieces bureaucrat, next to the Queen, can move to any empty space on the board. Cannot capture pieces jester, next to the King, can move with the same rules as the last piece your opponent played. Trainee pieces square, replaces the pawns in front of the knights, moves 2 squares side to side, or front to back, jumps over the space between like a knight. If it reaches the back row it becomes a knight. Paladin, replaces the pawns in front of the bishops, moves 2 spaces diagonally, jumps the space between like a knight. If it reaches the back row it becomes a bishop. Royal Family Prince, replaces the pawn in front of the King, can move up to 2 spaces in any direction. Princess, replaces the lawn in front of the Queen, can move up to 3 spaces in any direction while the King and Prince are on the board. The King can be captured without having check called. Upon the King's death the Prince becomes King, and the Princess a Queen. Yes, this can result in multiple queens, if the original Queen has not yet been captured, with the Prince or original King off the board. Check/checkmate rules apply, but have fun with the bureaucrat. Princess, replaces the lawn in front of the Queen. Don't you hate it when mom makes you redo the turf? Now that's a surf and turf. A block. You can place one anywhere on the board from A3 to H6. It can't be moved or captured, and any piece wishing to travel has to stop on it. And Mexico is gonna pay for it, believe me. The bureaucrat. It can move to any unoccupied position on the board, but cannot capture pieces. It's just there to get in the way and slow things down. You get one pawn that's a bomb. Like in Stratego it still moves like a pawn, but it has a bomb pick on the bottom, and if anyone try to take it, they blow up instead. That's actually pretty cool. It'd make it easier to re-get any piece you need back, and it would force the other person to use more strategy and seriously consider when it's time to kill that piece. Would the bomb factor still be there if you were to exchange it with any other piece? Or is it only when it's a pawn? Adding it to another piece would make it far too powerful, like say a suicide queen that you can get anywhere in a hurry. There are lots of pawns, so it makes it like a shell game with no real winners. The cardinal, it can take out pieces from behind. Heh, nothing personal, kid. The drunk moves 1 or 2 spaces in any direction, taking out any piece currently in that space, your team or the other. But the move is random. You press a pop-o-matic bubble on his head. A tiny dice bounces around and lands with an arrow and a 1x or 2x which determines where you move. His drunk ass can also fall right off the side of the board. Where does he start? Middle of the board, so it's a neutral unit that randomly seems to chase both teams? No, the drunk is part of your team. It's like the uncle you're not sure you want. He starts in any pawn position you want. The pigeon. Used when you are losing with no hopes to win. Put it on the board and it knocks over all the pieces and shits everywhere. My cat does this with the added benefit of clawing the shit out of whoever I throw it at. A doppel. It can switch places with any other of your pieces on the board, destroying it in the process. The narrative would be that it was the switched piece all along, and the original was a decoy, if that makes any sense. It's called the Black Death. It moves across the board side to side and wipes out 1/3 of all the pieces on the board. Ah yes, the equivalent of finger guns in rock paper scissors. A bad washing machine. It simply jumps around randomly and knocks over anything it comes in contact with. It cannot be stopped. While playing the Mario invincibility theme. Boar. Charges 3 squares forward, sideways, or back and knocks out all pieces in its path, friend or foe. It would be located in front of the rook. If it causes a checkmate, then a bitter war of succession ensues, and just when the pieces think it's over, the dragons show up, and then the whole game changes to Civis. Barrier. Starts in the middle and acts as a barrier. Can be moved one square at a time by either player, and the opposing side is gonna pay for it. The samurai. It can move just like a rook, but it can only kill if a piece is diagonal to it. The elusive super pawn. The hipster. It can only move to positions that have never been occupied by any piece before, so it can never capture anything. Well, making it useless does go right in line with the name. The jester. It's not on the board until you play it, and you can only play it once. It's used to distract one of the other player's pieces. You place the jester on the same square as one of their pieces and they can't move it on their next turn. The archer. Can move one place in any direction, but can take pieces 3 spaces away, only directly in front, only exactly 3 spaces away. So, you're telling me it can shoot farther when aiming diagonally? Medic. When a piece is captured, instead of being taken to the side, it is turned to its side and left on the square where it was captured. A medic has to go on to said square to revive it. The medic can move 1, 2 or 3 squares in any direction. Once at an injured troop's square, it stays on that square and must be protected. It takes 1 turn of being on the same square to revive a pawn. 3 for a knight and a rook, 2 for a bishop, 8 for a queen, and as you guessed, kings can't be revived. Also, a medic can revive itself. If it's left in the downed state for 3 turns, it is revived. This can happen an infinite amount of times. If a piece lands on the square, then the medic is dead. This also applies while resurrecting, and the downed troop is killed too. Rainbow 6. Chess. Egg. It does not move. Why? Just why? Because egg. I would add archer. That can attack anything 2 titles away, but can only move forward 1 title a turn, unless it's attacking, but it can't attack a turn after it moved. The silver car from Monopoly. It allows you to justifiably flip the board in a fit of rage when you start losing. Whoever chose the car was a bitch looking at you, little brother. Battleship and dog are the best. The Spanish Inquisitor. Instantly teleport and takes anything but the king once during a game. Nobody will expect it. Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. The Duke. It can move 1 space in any direction, but cannot move in the same direction 2 turns in a row. When it gets to the end and it becomes the Archduke, then when it dies you restart the game, but one of you speaks German. Dragon. It moves any direction and can fly over pieces, and the game would be over in 1 move, so it would suck. 1 pawn each. That's allowed to only attack forward. You place it yourself before the game and your opponent will only know which pawn it is when it finally attacks. The traitors / the generals. You need now a 9x9 board. They sit on either side of the king and can essentially do the same moves as the queen. However, when the king is in check / checkmate, your traitor can take your king's place and gets a free pass, i.e. no opponent piece can take it despite being in check / checkmate. Now your traitor becomes the new king and you get a 2nd or 3rd chance. However, you can only make this move if you haven't yet used your traitor to take out any of your opponent's pieces at the time of the move. Perhaps Prince would be a better name than traitor? It's called the Prince of Wales. It sits off to the side and waits for the queen to be taken, but the queen is never taken. It's called forced sacrifice and can eat your own pieces, which would be very useful sometimes. I'm looking at you, pawn blocking my castle. That isn't really ideal. Just move your pawn forward so you can squeeze the rook out. Pawns are the most important piece in a game. Getting rid of it would only hurt yourself. But what if the pawn is pissing me off and I need to teach it who's boss? The Thanos chess piece instantly wipes out half of the pieces on the board. Plot twist, it just happens to occur at the beginning of the match and wipes out all your pieces. The Emperor. This replaces the king. It cannot castle, but if it crosses the midline of the board, you win. As a downside, on stalemate, if you are the one who cannot win, you lose. Speeds up the endgame hard. The bratty rich kid. It starts in the middle and can only move backwards. The mime. It takes on the characteristics of any piece in an adjacent square to be chosen by the player. But it can't move because it's trapped in an invisible box. The Jard. It is on either side and can be randomly moved to any spot on the board by a third person who only exists to move the Jard. The Jard's only purpose is to get in the way of things. It's also 19 and never ducking. Learned how to read. Not a chess piece per se, but more of an elemental force. My son and I would play chess when he was younger. My daughter, 5 years younger than my son, would watch, but feel left out since she was too young to understand the rules. So sometimes we'd play chess and incorporate my daughter. She was about 4 years old I think, and her job was to come in every 5 moves and randomly move a piece to another position on the board. To wherever the duck she wanted. She would alternate colors of course. Ducked every game up. But it was hilarious. She was the Tempest. The Black Knight who cannot be killed. He always triumphs. Or the French Knight, who captures you by farting in your general direction. The Black Knight stays on the board, but cannot move or attack. Priest/Cardinal. This piece cannot attack/claim other pieces, but can block the advance of opposing pieces in front of it. This piece can only be claimed by bishop, king, and queen pieces. Trojan Horse. Replaces the knight. Pieces can move into it to be unloaded later. I'd call it the Alice. It pulls out a sword, moves only directly forward, back, right, or left, and smashes everything in its path. The Jester. I can only jump over the spaces in front of it. Cost 5 mana. I don't know how to play chess. Venice Piece. It moves in a straight line that would split the board in half, and would kill everything in one of the halves. I've played enough variations of chess to conclude that it is a perfectly designed game. I wouldn't change a thing. Try playing chess 960 or atomic chess. They're cool novelty ideas, but they're really quite silly. The Harlot. Any of the pieces around it are unable to move until she's gone. Village Idiot. It can only move sideways. It literally can't move forward at all, and serves absolutely no purpose, other than maybe defending another piece by blocking it. The Plague. It moves randomly one place on the board and kills whatever piece it lands on except kings. Landsknecht. Can move 1 spaces in any direction. Sacrifice 2 pawns to put 1 in a pawn's starting position. I thought it said cheese, as in a cheese board. I think Wensleydale with cranberries should be added. Sweet and creamy. Nice contrast to a strong blue or really any more savory cheese that's probably already on the board. Also it is visually very appealing, and really rounds out the display. It's called the Priest. It moves 1 space at a time in any direction. If you stop adjacent to an enemy piece you can convert it. IDK how that mechanic should work, but maybe you like roll a die or something. Definitely only 1 conversion per turn. Or sodomize it. The Archer. They would attack with infinite range in 8 directions around them, but could only move when attacking, and wouldn't be able to attack a piece 1 space in front of them. Insurgent. Replaces a pawn piece and moves like one. Cannot capture pieces, but will automatically checkmate the opponent you reach the other side. If captured it is instead placed back to starting location. Can only be truly captured when opposing chess piece occupies the starting location. The Idiot. Many of these ideas for pieces are already available in Chess Evolved Online. It's a fantasy chess game. Highly recommend it. The Governor General. It can't move, but when your queen dies it replaces her at a great square and is in play for X rounds. If he's not taken out within the time limit a new queen will take its place. The Prawn. It doesn't move. It starts wherever you place it at the beginning of the game. Just a single raw shrimp in the middle of a chessboard that you can't do anything to. The priest. It can only eat a piece if it is under legal age, and it has to be from behind. I would propose the wizard vaguely simulating invisibility. It can move to any space on the board. However, while it can move to any space, it can only kill or take another piece with interspaces, any direction, of its starting location it is at on the beginning of that turn. I don't think this would work. It would mean that all game long, each player would have to ensure each of the 16 squares that are 2 squares away from their king are guarded by another piece, else the wizard could just swoop in, causing check. Seems incredibly powerful. The ninja. It can jump over pieces like a knight, but moves like a queen. There's a damn good joke in here somewhere, but I'm not good enough to see it. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.